So Sarah,
Yeah.
you have a child in grade 2 and another in grade 12, and that gives you a unique perspective.
Yeah.
Can you tell us how parenting has changed for you over time?
One thing that I would say is I've changed as well as a human being. When I had Victor, I was in my 20s, and then the person that I was then is different from the person that I am now. So the way that I look at parenting has actually changed, and Victor also comes in as a deputy parent, and he kind of helps as well in the house. But there are times when you say the things that he expects the younger one to do, the level that he expects, the perfection, you're thinking, hey, this is too much.
Yeah.
And then you kind of get in there.
But then he
start
probably
trying
says,
to-
but you expected that of me. I'm like,
Yes.
no, I
No,
didn't. No, I didn't.
no, it was not at that level. But
Exactly.
probably that is how I was then, and then
Just didn't
probably
really
I'm
pick
just
up on it.
becoming a bit softer and a bit more understanding, if I can say.
What role do you think consequences play in helping children grow? And also to make the emphasis on not punishing, but actually having consequences.
Now, I think it's very important that my children know what is permissible and what is not. And in that process, the one thing that I think helps is for them to know that if I do this, something is going to be taken away. So I understand my children very well, and I know what they enjoy. So if they do something that I think is not right, I make sure I just take that one away for a while, so that they really know that this is not the correct way to do things. So it's really something that I think is very important, that there are consequences, and this goes to things that they value most. Yes.
For sure. And I just want to add something quickly there. Is I think that having consequences, our children need to realize that we're trying to teach them to be good humans.
Yeah.
We're trying to teach them to be successful and kind and loving humans. And we can guide them that way by having consequences, by them realizing that this behavior creates this, or this will happen if I do that. So it's all about guiding them. It's for their own benefit.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
Can I add to that as well? I think consequences is the communication of guardrails. So it sort of explains to our children where things stop and end. And the interesting thing about that, research shows that if we have these guardrails, we actually feel safer. So without them, we feel lost, life feels ambiguous, and that increases anxiety. So it's really about our children learning what the consequences are so that they can feel safer. And there's a warmth to that if you can embrace it.
And probably to add that this is just preparing them for the real world, because in the real world, that is how things
Exactly.
work.
There
If
are
you
consequences.
go sideways,
Something's going to happen.
consequences.
Exactly.
Yes, definitely.
You
Yeah.
skip work, something's going to happen.
Now,
You
why would
speed
want
in
to
your
skip
car,
work?
stop, never.
Many parents struggle with consistency. Why is it so hard to hold boundaries, Priscilla, even when we know that they're really important to have?
Because boundaries trigger discomfort. Right? You're literally making a choice about something that you value, but in that moment might not feel important or might not feel as necessary as something else. And so that discomfort is something that we as parents need to learn to embrace. It doesn't come easy, but that is how great habits are formed. Classically, people also say, when you're uncomfortable, that's when you learn. But when you're comfortable, you're not stretching yourself, you're not trying new things. And those boundaries are really, if you choose your boundaries from a place of values and that's aligned to your purpose, they're actually communicating what you think is important to yourself or maybe to your family structure. But sticking to them, that's what's the difficult part. And it's uncomfortable. And you have to push through it. Yeah.
Then it becomes a habit.
Yes.
Yeah.
How can parents set limits and maintain these boundaries that they're trying to enforce while still maintaining a connection with their children?
So in my coaching practice, when we're doing boundary work, I often use this metaphor that boundaries are not walls, they are fences. I'm just going to say that again. Boundaries are not walls, they are fences. And what this means is when you have a healthy boundary, other people can see through. If you have unhealthy boundaries, people don't know what you're holding tight or what you find valuable. And so when you are connecting with your children, as parents, we get uncomfortable with feeling uncomfortable that our children are not happy. And so then we want to create either a wall and not explain things and just say this is what it is, or we have the opportunity to sit next to them and explain to them why this is necessary. And that is how we build that connection. I think something that I have seen that's quite challenging is that many parents want to be friends with their children and not parent. And that is why boundary setting gets difficult, because it's not nice to create disappointment in your child, but at the same time we want to create these guardrails. So it's a real moment of tension, you know, where we have to navigate it, but at the same time acknowledge that it's needed. Yeah?
Yeah.
I love that metaphor that when you've got healthy boundaries, other people can see in. I really like that because it's true. You look at family structures that is a really healthy family. You look at it and you go, wow, that's the connection and the family relationships. It's wonderful to see. Whereas I think if people put that wall up, you don't see that connection in the family, and then you notice something is not
a bit
connected.
mixed.
Yeah.
And the key behavior is really communication. And you see it in the workplace, you see it with other adults as well. If you want to put up a boundary, please don't contact me after this particular time. If you communicate it to your colleague or to anyone else and say, you know what, this is valuable time in my household, this is when we have dinner, please don't contact me between 6 and 7. You'll be surprised at how many people honor that. But in their home, 6 and 7 isn't a golden hour, so they feel like they can catch up on some phone calls, right? So through that communication, that is when we convert our boundaries into fences and not walls.
Do you think children today are being given enough of an opportunity to struggle, to problem solve, and also take responsibility for their actions?
I think in general, in the modern world, we are taking more on ourselves to do things for our children that they should do themselves. Yeah.
Yeah, and at the same time, I think we're wrapping them up in cotton wool, and because we want to protect them. I also think that COVID sort of shifted things in the home around wanting to protect our children. But if I had to answer that question, I don't think we allow our children to struggle enough. And the reality is resilience is built when you struggle, through healthy struggle. So it's not that we're saying our children must be unsafe, but they need to have some kind of opportunity to build the muscle of resilience. So in our home, my husband and I have fabricated struggling or fabricated challenging moments, and we've done that through sport. Because our kids have a cushy life. I won't deny they've got an easy life, right? And Malcolm and I always said, how are we going to build resilience in these three? And what we've done is we've implemented sports. And not so long ago, we had a massive sports disappointment. And all I wanted to do was I wanted to fix it for my child. But I had to watch her deal with the emotion of disappointment. And then sit next to her and be like, I am also disappointed for you. But what now? And she said, no, I'm going to jump back in that pool. And the beauty of that is if they practice now, just on the field or in a pool or whatever the choice of sport is, by the time they have massive disappointments in life, they've at least experienced that emotion. And that's that internal system that we're building, that they're able to bounce back. Because that's what grit is. It's when you fall down, when you knock your knee, and you pull yourself towards yourself, and you're like, let me try again. And if we're cushioning our children, they don't get to practice resilience. And it's something that we can't serve to them on a platter. They have to learn it for themselves.
For sure. I think that, I just wanted to say something, that I think that in our home, one of the biggest things that I have experienced with teaching them resilience has to do with friendships.
Sure.
Because you cannot fix that. You cannot fix when friendships are falling apart or when another child has treated them in a certain way. And I agree with you. That is when you sit down and you say, I'm disappointed with you, I'm sad with you, but now what?
Yeah.
Now what? Who else could you be friends with? Who else? How can you deal with this problem? Do you agree in the way they're treating you? no. Okay, let's look for other people. So yeah, I hear you.
So something that we do in our home is we say, let's process this together. And so they get to speak, I get to speak, and whatever lands at the end of that conversation, it's up to them.
It's meant to be.
Yeah.